We interrupt this program to bring you an important Wayfair message. Wayfair's got style tips for every home. This is Nicole Byer, helping you make those rooms flyer. Today's style tip: when it comes to making a statement, treat bold patterns like neutrals. Go wild! Like an untamed animal print area rug under a rustic farmhouse table from Wayfair.com. Ooh, fierce! This has been your Wayfair style tip to keep those interiors superior.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Empire.
Hello and welcome to my podcast. Do me a favor, subscribe to the John Carmen Report wherever you get your podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. You can find us there as part of Empire Media, AMPIRE. Always much appreciated when you tune in. And don't forget, you can read my work on ESPN.com. Also, Bram Weinstein, the voice of the Commanders, and I will be doing a live stream show Tuesday night, 7:30 Eastern time. So there you go. And as you can see, if you're watching, I'm joined by my pal, Nicki Jhabvala from the Washington Post. A couple days after the Commanders lost to the Eagles up in Philadelphia, their second straight loss. It's kind of nice to have an off weekend, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm watching football from my couch today. It's wild. Now I see why people like it so much.
I know. Well,
Crazy.
it's nice to be able to wake up and like, oh yeah, I can have a second cup of coffee at home and, watch some things maybe on the game film from the other night that I wouldn't have gotten a chance to watch ordinarily. So
Yeah.
it's kind of nice.
Yep.
It's nice. And it's nice to feel normal to have a second day in a row off, because we just not complaining.
I remember those.
It's just
Yeah, no.
you don't get those. And
Yeah.
once camp starts, you don't get those. So that's fine. It's part of life, but it's nice to experience it. So
Yeah, and there's a good slate of games on today, so even better. So
Yes. Yeah. So I was shocked that Detroit was beating Jacksonville like that.
yeah, shocking. Totally.
Saw that coming.
Totally.
Anyways, so nobody cares about that. So I am curious though. Let's start with this one, Nicki, because it's 2 losses in a row with the Commanders. They got Dallas coming up this week. What's your level of concern after the consecutive losses? And how would you parcel that concern out?
I'm not terribly concerned. I have more questions than concerns, I guess. I think part of this is on fans, maybe media too, they look so good, and that's such a departure from what this franchise has looked like for the better part of 2 decades that I think it's kind of easy to get carried away. And that, sometimes it's a healthy reminder that, this is still a rookie quarterback and this is still a team in progress. I don't care what R word they use, they're rebuilding, and they're in the, beginning stages of that. There's still roster holes. They're still working through stuff. And I think this is the perfect example of where they're at. I think they played very, very well early on in the season. I think there are a number of factors at play for, their recent slump, if we want to call it that. If there's one area where I guess maybe a little concern is health. And that's where I think this 10-day stretch before their next game is vital. It's obviously Jaden. He goes. This team goes where he goes, as is the case with every NFL team. You go where your quarterback goes. But I think the offensive line too. They're dealing with so many injuries, and they don't have a ton of depth. So they need all their guys available, or as many as they can. So nobody's healthy fully at this point in the season, but hopefully they can rest up enough to be good to go against Dallas, because that's, as we've talked about, that's a huge game. Philly was the biggest game at that point. This is the biggest game at this point.
It is, and we'll get to Jaden's rib in a few minutes, because that's like everybody's talking about that, and you can look at the number. Well, we can talk about that in a minute, but but you're right. Like what these games highlighted to me, Nicki, is that listen, they're 7-4. You look at their schedule and you still think like, why wouldn't they should finish strong if they are, if they're what we think they are. And, I know if the goal here is to get to the playoffs, and you have a winnable schedule coming up. I mean, but I think what these games highlighted is that there is a difference between them and the top teams, which there should be, given exactly what you said. Like, I don't think that's any surprise to anybody in this organization.
Mhm.
that they don't have the same level, they don't have the same roster as Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And so I think that game really, maybe as you said, was a reminder of that difference. So
Yeah.
that's why I say like the concern, or again, not questions, I think is a good word too, because why, what do they need? I think we can see
Hmm.
that, but
Hmm.
also how close are they? And then are they equipped to finish strong? Because just
Right.
because you have an easy schedule doesn't mean you're going to finish strong. You've got to be playing
Right.
well. So,
Right.
and that, I think that's one of the things I wonder about too. So in terms of, do you feel like they can finish well? Do you look at the way they are now? Do you think they can finish?
Yeah. I think so. I think again, a lot of it will be dependent on health, and that's not to say that their recent struggles are solely because of health.
Right.
Two separate things in my mind. I I think that's a big issue, but certainly not the only one. I mean, they've played some top-notch defenses, top teams. Um, they've played their best against some of the worst teams, to be expected. I guess not in recent years with the Commanders. They always seem to play their worst against the worst
Right.
teams. Um, but it's a different ballgame when you're playing the defenses like the Steelers, who are built to shut down rushing quarterbacks, and they do it very well. Um, I think the key for me is finding ways to make Jaden Daniels that dynamic player again. When he's one dimensional, and teams have held him to that because of scheme, personnel, health, whatever the reason or reasons. They've been able to eliminate parts of his game, and I think they need all of it. This is a team that they need to be firing on all cylinders to play well. They don't have sort of that cushion or that reserve to make mistakes and be able to overcome them. Not yet. Um, so I think when they do have those errors, or where there are all those holes in their game, that it's they're just fighting an uphill battle, and it's tough to win like that. So yeah, I do think they can win. I think they can finish strong. They can rediscover some of what they had in week 3, week 4. Again, different teams, different competition. Their divisional games coming up more than they had then. So yeah, they need a good reset here.
And how much do you think? Because when you look at it, obviously they've been playing well, like you said, against subpar teams, which, and it's funny because people complain like, well, they're only beating bad teams. Like they were losing to them before this year. Like,
Right.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, let's keep some perspective
Perspective.
here that
Yeah. Yeah.
yes, and it's like if you're expecting them to win Super Bowls, yes, you want to beat good teams. And if
Right.
you're thinking they're there yet, then I think you need to kind of like
Yeah.
recalibrate a little bit. It's okay to have good expectations, but there's nothing that suggests that they're there at this point.
Right.
But beating bad teams is a pretty damn good start. And to me, like in those games last 2 weeks, they do compete, and you're paid to compete. But I think in the past years with the same roster, you may not have seen the same level of
Right.
competition. Still losses, so whatever. You're not giving out participation trophies. But the other thing, Nikki, too, is that those are two really good defenses. So when
Really
you
good.
look at it,
Hmm.
and when I look at it, like I think that's part of it. It's not all of it because you want to beat those and shoot against
Hmm.
Pittsburgh. You're talking about a couple missed plays that could have been large gains.
Hmm.
You give one of those, and this team probably wins the game.
Right.
So when you look at it, like, do you attribute it mostly to the defense, or is it defense? Is it something these guys aren't doing? What is it that you feel has been maybe the big trip up the last couple weeks?
Yeah, I think it's multiple factors, and I think it's virtually impossible to separate them and kind of say, oh, this is due to this, or this is due to this, or it's, he's playing like this because he's hurt. He's playing like this because of the defense. No, I think that's one of probably 10 reasons why they're not playing the way they did in weeks 3 and 4, at their best. So yeah, I think, go back to the Philly game. I mean, those rookie corners are exceptional. I mean, not just for rookies, for corner, they're exceptional. Like they're really freaking good. um, And yeah, they did shut down Terry. Now, was it because solely of those corners? No, I think they weren't getting him the ball. We heard Terry. The ball wasn't thrown my way. Like they did some things schematically to kind of eliminate them, but they weren't able. The Commanders weren't able to do enough to counter that and find ways to get them open or find ways to get others open. If they're focused on Terry. So it's multiple factors at play, in my opinion. I think when it becomes overanalyzed, or the point where you're trying to, decipher, which error is due to
Right.
which deficiency, it's impossible. I think they need to correct so many things, not so many, but a good number of things to kind of get back to where they are. And it's like I almost laughed when you said that, because I agree with you totally that it does come down to like 4 or 5 plays. But my God, how many times do we hear that over the last 4 years?
Oh,
And
for sure.
it's like it's cliche, but this is the one time it's actually true. Like
Right.
like now it is actually down to those few plays, whereas before it was like, okay,
Right.
stop.
Exactly. Now I will say, like Baltimore in the Eagles game, I think the better team won.
Sure.
The Pittsburgh
But
game
they-
was more
Yeah, and they their opponents played pretty poorly in the especially in the first half against Philly, and then Saquon came alive in the second half. But
and
they
credit
weren't
the
playing
defense did a good job.
definitely, yeah. And that's where I kind of go back to. I think this team is good. I don't think they have everything they need to be. I don't think they're fully equipped to be able to sustain that level of play for a full game, or to overcome, or to have the defense sort of carry the offense. I think they got a lot of studs on that side of the ball, but it's not a complete, it's not a finished product yet.
Right. And we need to see Lattimore out there, and we have still no idea when he's going to be out there. Like,
Yeah,
we'll
hasn't
find
even
out more.
practiced.
Yeah, we'll find out
Yeah.
more Wednesday, I guess, this week to see what is he even doing, whether it's on the side, whether it's in
Mhm.
practice, and when he might come back. But but as far as like you're right, like it's hard to parcel out whatever the issues are. And like,
Mhm.
I went back and watched the whole McLaurin thing this morning, and they did a really good job. They paid attention. They have two guys, eyeing him, not always doubling him, but maybe bracketing, or maybe, it's certainly
Mhm.
dropping to an area where you're taking away the slant, you're taking away this out route that he's out there, and widening a
Mhm.
little bit, but then it opens it up for Ertz or someone else. So you're right. Like if you're not going to get him open, somebody else has to capitalize.
Right.
And that's what they weren't able to do. And so whether that's because they don't have that guy, or they weren't getting it to him, or
Right.
sometimes was Jaden getting enough time to get to somebody else?
Right.
All those are factors in this. And the other part is too, like, I can sit here and say like they did a really job against Terry, but what can Washington do then to counter that, to maybe create
Right.
opportunities for him too? And I think that's why the second game we'll see that. But with the injury, or the rib, this is the
Mhm.
hard question, because I mean, Nikki and I kind of figured this all out on Friday driving back. We should have just taken
Naturally.
it, played it now.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but it's hard to know. A, how much is it bothering him? B, when does it play out? I know
Right.
like people say, oh, he's throwing at their feet. Well, sometimes on those throws at the feet, he's drifting back because of pressure, or maybe he's drifting back too far. Other
Right.
times there's some, you're speeding the throw up. And then other times I see him unleash a ball to Ertz where he's stepping into it and driving it. So, so it's hard to know, like, oh, is that the play?
Mhm.
Is that the play? So, but we don't
Mhm.
know. We know what they say. It's a hard thing to discern.
Right. And they, yeah, we don't have their medical reports in front of us. We're not out there with them. So if he says it's not an issue, we know a lot of times they don't tell the full truth,
Right.
especially when it comes to injuries. I'm not saying he's a liar. I think that's part of the game. It's gamesmanship. I understand that you have to do it to a degree. But we may never know the full severity of the injury, or if he's truly dealing with it at all. I think a lot of the speculation comes from the way he's playing, which is definitely much different than the way he was playing earlier in the season. I mean, his completion percentage is, you looked up it, he'd be 28 through Friday, I think, or Saturday. And he led the league in the first 6 games. So it's definitely a change, and it may not necessarily, if it is, it can also be secondary to the injury. Like he may not necessarily be in pain in the rib, but maybe he's compensating, maybe he's trying to protect it and it changes his motion. Maybe there's other things going on. He cut his hand in game against Philly, his right throwing hand. That sure can't make it too easy to throw a ball when you got a big gash right here. So there's a number of things, and he's not skinny. I think that got overplayed, ahead of the draft, but he is fairly slight, and he's taken some serious shots this season, and those add up, as it does with any player. So I think he's one of the toughest players we've seen in a long time, but just because you're not in acute pain somewhere doesn't mean you may not be compensating in some way elsewhere, and that can change anything. And I mean, let's be real. I mean, a rib, if it's cartilage, we don't even know that. I know it's been reported that it was cartilage related. If it is that doesn't heal in 2 days. And you think about how much you twist as a quarterback, how much you need that area just to do any movement, really, to run, to it affects literally everything out there. So, it wouldn't be surprising if it is still bothering him, but we only know as much as they tell us.
And here's the thing, even if it is bothering him, he's still playing at a level.
Still playing. He has not
win with it, by far.
yeah.
And so against the Steelers, there were plays where he threw some really good balls. And the ones he missed, like to Zacchaeus, to McCaffrey, I don't think I can attribute that to a rib. You know what I mean? And then, so because those were more just the one, he rushed it a little, he got moved from his spot, rushed it a little bit wide to Zacchaeus. And then to McCaffrey, do you have to put more air under it? But that's, you know what I mean? It's not to me, it would more, see it on the driving or whatever. So that's why it's hard to say. But again, he's playing well at with what he's doing, they can still win. I give the Steelers credit for keeping him in the pocket. There was a really good front. So that's the hard part. And then even on the last,
I don't know that he's playing well enough to beat those types of teams, though. I mean, he's playing good, but
the Eagles are different. The Steelers are, again, one throw, or if Cosme holds his block on the quarterback draw, you're in field goal range. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I don't think he's hurting them. In other words, I don't.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if he can eliminate, he hasn't had many turnovers, but eliminate the turnovers, and it's the throws that throw to Noah Brown that landed at his feet. Those are the ones that I'm something doesn't seem right, because I mean, he was throwing dots to guys' chests before that. But why?
Right. But even in that game, because that one, you look at it and did he drive on that? I don't think he drove on that. But then later in the game, he drives on throws to other guys. That's why I'm saying, that's the hard part to say, well,
right.
What is and what isn't? When is it not? That's right. And so I'm not going to dismiss it. I think it's just hard to know what is going on. And
sure.
And that's my only point with it, is I can't say for sure. And just like you said, because we don't know. And then you look at the Bears game, he throws a 65-yard ball in the air for a Hail Mary. You know what I'm saying? So that's why it's and that's the hard part to know. And so and if it is, to what level? Because we know a lot of times we find out after the season, it was really like this. So that's why you can't dismiss it, because we don't know. We just don't know.
Right.
So you look for little clues. You look for clues, and where, and is it, do you see what you want to see to match your thought? So you have to, I'm trying to be really careful to say, not to say it's not, because you see, with that throw you talked about to Noah Brown, I saw it, and it's did he drive on that? And then I watched, and then I'm well, how did it look against Arizona? And then you see well, okay, that he threw something like this, and does it look kind of similar? That's the hard part. You try to, and then you start overanalyzing it. And that's when you say, you throw your hands up, I don't know.
Right. No, it's impossible. We don't have the information. It's whether we say he's not injured or appears injured, it's speculative. And I think that's a dangerous road to go down. But, that's
but we do
part
know
of it at this point. We're trying to make sense of why he is looking different.
Correct.
These last couple weeks. So,
and the offense in general too, because it's not, because I mean, that 4th down and 2, I know he bobbled the ball, but he said, the cadence, whatever, but Cosme's pulling to his left and everybody else is
Right.
going the other way. So, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
there's like little things like that where it's not just like everybody's functioning at a high level and they're not getting the ball. Like I don't
Right.
like the Eagles. I know I've heard you are a big Vic Fangio fan.
It's a bit.
It's a bit. It's a bit.
Relax. Yes.
But he's a really good coordinator and they took the explosive stuff away. But,
Mhm.
so
I've heard
that's what
that's
I'm
what his
saying.
defense is built to do.
Right, exactly. So that's why
Wow.
it's so hard to know. And then you're like, if they come out and struggle against the Cowboys who are not playing the same level of defense, then it's like, okay, now something's really up. But
Right.
I don't know, Nikki. It's just you can't dismiss it, but you just don't know. But like you said, what you know is rib injuries do not just heal like that. And
Right.
and
Right.
this 10 days will help him, and then in 2 weeks the bye will help him.
Yeah.
You know,
I just don't know that any injury can fully heal in season when you're
no,
getting creamed by 300-pound linemen. Like, what body part suddenly heals while you're
right.
sustaining that? That would be a
Nobody.
medical miracle.
Yeah, no,
But the other thing we haven't even mentioned with the offense is how many drops have we seen? It's not like
yeah,
not like there's been the receivers are doing them a whole lot of favors. There have been times where they've been wide open, the ball has like sailed
right,
behind them or over their
right.
heads. So I'm not putting it all on them, but it's been a little bit on everybody, I think.
Yeah, no, and that's for sure. And again, the line has done a good job this year, but there were times where I'm again watching McLaurin. I'm like, okay, and this route looks like he could get open. Then you look
Hmm.
at the pass rush, like, but you're not having the chance
Hmm.
to set up and get it there.
Right.
So that's
Right.
the other part of it. And again, I think the interesting thing to me, Nikki, will be over the next few weeks, we'll see, was it just these defenses or was it something else?
Hmm.
Was it, we know like Kingsbury in Arizona, the whole thing was, oh, they figured him out in the second half. I don't know that that's necessarily
Right.
true, but, and I think it'll be very telling when they play the Eagles again down the road. But that's, like I said, that's a hard thing to know. And then Brian Robinson was out, but he was back,
Hmm.
and
I still think, the left tackle situation is a concern.
yeah,
It's still young. I don't want to make any judgment on Brandon Coleman just yet. I don't think he had the best game against the
no,
Eagles by any stretch. I think it was a rough game for him, but he's so young. And what is their plan there? We still don't know yet.
right.
So,
And like, I think Coleman can play in this league. I think they're still like, where is
mhm.
his best spot? And
Right,
it's, you want to see, and it's not to say it is or isn't. It's just like let's just see more because
right.
you want to see the body of work. And it's funny because the one guy that I think I'd like to see get the ball at some point more is Luke McCaffrey, because
Hmm.
like he seems to get open a decent amount.
Hmm.
Um, but I also think like if you're having a hard time with McLaurin getting the ball, his importance, are there other ways to create opportunities for him?
Right,
You know,
right.
what's the big thing that you're going to be looking for over even this week or over the next few weeks?
I mean, it's all going to be the offense for me. I feel like we have a better sense of where the defense is at than the offense. And they still have their lapses. I mean, the second half last or Thursday, not great, but they've had so many big plays
Yeah,
too that, you're starting to see, sort of that growth and the communication come together. Offense, you just want to see them get back to playing somewhat like they did, having a more two-dimensional offense and not, I felt like the passing game disappeared in the first half
yeah,
against the Eagles. I mean, the run game, or at least it was all Austin Eckler and Brian Robinson for the entirety of the game, pretty much.
yeah,
If they can find some way to get, have Jaden be more two-dimensional like he was, that he extended so many drives, so many plays just with his legs. I mean, that's part of his value. I still think he is a true pocket passer, and that's his
yeah.
strength, but he's a really great runner too. So finding their footing again on offense is what I would say.
Yeah, and I agree with you. Like I know, like I said, I can sit here and say like this is why he did do it against the Steelers because they did a really good job taking that away. The Eagles pass rush was more disciplined, but you still like that's part of his, what makes him
Mhm.
so dynamic and dangerous. And like, I'm with you. Like, again, the Steelers took that away and one or two throws and they win that game despite that.
Yeah.
So it just tells you
Mhm.
the level of play that he can get to without having to use his legs. But we also know that that comes in very handy, especially on those third downs. Like, they haven't been good on third downs the last 2 weeks.
No.
I think taking away the legs is a part of that reason. And so
Yeah.
like, if they can get that back. But the other thing I'm looking to see, it's just that we don't know when we'll see it, is the impact of Lattimore on that defense.
Yep.
Because like that to me, and you're right, like the defense is kind of what it is. If the offense had been able to be more productive, then, I mean, shoot, even that last drive there, it's halfway through the fourth and they're down by 2. So,
Mhm.
you could, the defensive effort was not bad at all,
Mhm.
and then
Mhm.
Barkley just took advantage of a tired group or whatever. So, but I am curious to see what's the impact of Lattimore on what he can do and what he adds and what
Mhm.
it changes how they call things, and how much better does it make them? And
Right.
then can the offense get back to being that group that we saw against other teams? I think the benefit for them, Nikki, is that I think of the last 6 games they're playing, I think 5 are against teams that are ranked 20th or worse in scoring
Mhm.
defense. So doesn't
That
guarantee
helps.
because because like if you're not playing well, you're not playing well. I think that's what we'll see. What was it? So I
Right.
think that'll be. But I still look at them as like they have a really good shot at making the playoffs, and
Mhm.
so I don't
Yeah.
know.
No, I agree.
Anything else you want to add, Nikki?
Are we going to talk about the new chainsaw you got, or are we just going to pretend like it didn't happen? And how you returned one with this for a smaller blade? What are you doing? What
I
is it? What are you, who are you? What are you doing?
listen. I can chop. Well, just be careful because it's still a 16-inch blade now, and it's good for what I have to do. And I read the reviews, and I liked the one I got instead. So I did my homework after the fact. So I called an audible. Um,
Weak.
yeah, no,
Weak.
I will say I was pretty excited about getting the 18-inch blade. I know like somebody's out there is going to say like, oh, you big woods, get a 20, whatever. I don't need it because I don't have to do it all that much. So I just want one where I can kind of look tough sometimes, put on a little hockey mask, go outside and pull that engine and go. "Arr."
Jeez. This is what I deal with all day. I mean,
I am surprised you didn't ask me one question though. And if
what's that?
people
Can I have your power washer? Is that the question?
well,
Which I
that
do.
no, you cannot because not after
Dang
these
it.
smart aleck comments. But you didn't ask me if I got my ears lowered. I'm disappointed in
Did you
that.
get your ears lowered?
I
Oh my
did.
gosh, you did.
I did. So there you go.
Wow,
If you're
congrats.
listening to this, you're probably thinking, what the hell are they talking about? But I did get a haircut.
Another bit.
So I took
Wow, a
advantage.
chainsaw and got your ears
Chainsaw and a
lowered.
haircut. Not,
Jeez. What are you
yes.
gonna do on the bye week? This is just like mini bye. What are you gonna
Listen,
do then?
I even hung up some curtains or some window thing in our kitchen that I've been meaning to get up. So I don't even know what it's
What's
called.
happened to you?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I'm efficient. I'm efficient.
No, you're not.
No, I'm
Don't
not.
go that far.
I think we better end there because people are going to tune us out right now.
Yeah.
Anyways, anything you want to plug
No,
besides? Yeah.
no.
Okay. All right.
Please read the Washington Post.
And subscribe to the Washington
And
Post.
please subscribe to the Washington Post.
Thank you, Nikki.
Thanks for having me.
We interrupt this program to bring you an important Wayfair message. Wayfair's got style tips for every home. This is Styles McKenzie helping you make those rooms sing. Today's style tip. When it comes to making a statement, treat bold patterns like neutrals. Go wild, like an untamed animal print area rug under a rustic farmhouse table from Wayfair.com. Arr, fierce. This has been your Wayfair style tip to keep those interiors superior.
Wayfair, every style, every home.